Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. Steve, it is a pleasure to have you back on the show. There's a subject we're going to be talking about that I told you I was interested in when we last left off of it, I think in your first episode. You mentioned you had caught photos of a dogman creature, but I want you to explain a little bit about what dogman is, just for people that might not be informed on it or might not know what it is, and then also how you came across it.
With the dog man, it's basically a wolf. It's a creature that a lot of times it's confused for like a German Shepherd. Most time they have the pointed ears like that, but they seem to have the ability to move around on two legs, walking upright. And there's some different thoughts and theories on it. From what I've actually personally seen, it's been a few years ago. William and I, we've kept cameras out for years in our area we call Ground Zero. And most of the time we make a clockwise rotation and checking cameras. On that particular day, we made a counterclockwise rotation. And whenever we'd come up out of a draw back up on the ridge into the field, that was the day that I'd spotted something first. I was just a little bit ahead of William, and I saw a black head drop down below the broom sage grass, and it was in the field that day that the actual dog man was there. And fortunately, I had the presence of mind to go ahead and snap a couple of pictures of it. I think you're going to attempt to share one. This is a And for me, that was something I really didn't want to be real, especially in the area where we were trying to research Bigfoot. And it was really surprising to us at that time that we would actually see a dog man in the area where the Bigfoot were at. And since then, we've talked to more people and we found out that this is a little more common than what most people actually believe, and that the dog man and the Bigfoot will use the same territory. Um, for me, I'd actually found a trackway of one, probably a year and a half prior to us seeing the one that we saw that day. And the track was probably about 4.5 inches wide. I would have to spread my hand out like that to get the width of the track. And it was a little bit longer than it was wide, which you have well, that was actually a different one even. So, I mean, we have found, with that trackway, I know some researchers in Ohio, and they've been, I don't know if they personally laid eyes on it, for someone that they know has actually seen it, but they have a trackway up there that looks very, very similar to that. They've actually cast it, and they said it looks identical to that three-toe track with a $20 bill beside it. So, and then in Oklahoma, I know tracks have been found similar to that as well. So, yeah, the first time I came across these tracks, it was in the what we call the field, and they were the tracks. Both times I found trackways, they were only about 30 inches to 36 inches in stride. The first time I found them, they weren't perfectly lined up, tightrope pattern, as you often hear about Bigfoot. You know, they walk a tightrope. Whenever they walk, it'd just be one foot in front of the other. These right here were actually about 4 to 6 inches staggered, just a little bit. They weren't perfectly lined up, one in front of the other. And the second trackway that I found that I did take a picture of, now it was more of a tightrope pattern. And for me, what I honestly believe is that the first trackway I found, it was simply walking upright. And the second one, I think for some reason it was running, is why it had a tightrope pattern. That's my thought on it. I'm not going to promise that's 100% accurate, but that's what I believe took place. So,
Now, were you
but
aware of information on Dogman before you found some of these tracks?
yeah, I was a little bit. I'd, I've, I mean, that's, yeah, I've met and I talked to Dick Condiff before, and I've listened to some of the stories that have been shared with him. So I was aware of them, but I honestly, prior to finding a trackway and seeing them, I honestly didn't know of anything in my area that would give me any indication that they were here. So that was a bit of a surprise to me, and I didn't want to make too big a deal out of it because I didn't want my partner to get scared and say, "Well, it's been fun, but it's time to call this all off." So, but he actually embraced it, and said, "You realize, that this is just part of it."
Now, when you say you found a track though, but did you see that before the sighting of the actual
Yes,
thing?
yes,
Okay. So
yeah,
when you saw the sighting, did that like what was it like? What did it look like? I saw the photo you sent. And it's interesting. To me, it looks like a giant wolf, but I don't know because it seems like it's a little bit more prowled up more than I guess a wolf would be. Kind of like there's a good distance between its stomach to the ground, which is I couldn't. I mean, I might have seen it in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, Lady in the Water. That little creature that comes out of the grass or whatever. But when did you see that? Like, where were you when you were you on ground zero when you saw this thing? And then,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. We were up on the ridge, and it was actually at a lower elevation than what we were. In the field, it's probably 150 yards or more away from us. When I took the picture. So, I mean, with that, and I wish I had more information about how it took off and left and all that. But as I've said before, sometimes with the adrenaline rush and everything else and all that right there, sometimes you lose. You I don't know. You don't have a clear memory of all that. I know I did that when I played softball. Whenever I hit a ball, a lot of times I don't remember actually seeing the ball make contact with the bat. But a lot of times I had good results with it, but even though I couldn't tell you about it, so to me it was kind of similar to that with everything. But seeing it that day was confirmation of, yeah, that's this really is what we've been seeing tracks of out here.
Now, do you
And
believe it's a single beast, or do you believe it's multiple forms of like just a different type of like species out there? Because I thought it was located mostly in Michigan.
yeah, to me, I think it's a something separate from the Bigfoot. Yeah, I don't think they're the same thing. And that's been part of the mystery to me, is to trying to understand what the relationship is between the Bigfoot and the Dogman. Is why if all of them were really as dangerous as what some of the stories are that you hear of how they're just this bloodthirsty killer, then why would the Bigfoot allow them to be in an area where they would have little ones? Because in that ground zero area, we've got pictures of or we have pictures that we believe are like mamas holding babies and things like that. Well, why would you allow something that bloodthirsty in your area where you would have babies? Is my question. So apparently, not all of the myth is true about them. So,
Now, how much do you know about the myth of Dogman? Because, like I said, I thought it was mostly a Michigan thing, was the Dogman stuff. That's why I think every state has their own cryptid or something like that. I think in Pennsylvania it's the Pope licking monster, which is probably the coolest name for a cryptid. But when you do explore the area of cryptid, like if we just really honestly talk about it, it is just trying to decipher. There's a lot of species that have been categorized, but there's also new species being categorized every single year. So when we really think about how much we haven't explored, not just on our lands, but when it comes to the ocean and things that are just new discoverable species happen all the time. So that's not insane. But I think with these, I don't know, there's a part of like religion that's mixed into it as well, too. I mean, if you talk about like a half man, half beast thing, and then people start thinking werewolf, but also there was like half animals and half humans when you talk about like Anubis and all that type of stuff that comes out of ancient Egypt folklore.
yes, yeah, you run across that as well, and you wonder what the actual origin is of these creatures. Does it go back to, say, like the Book of Enoch or something? So, and somehow these have survived. And that's the thing that I really wish we had more information on, but it seems unlikely that we're actually going to get anything just absolute solid.
Now, what have you heard from other researchers that have come across a dog man?
Uh, some of the guys that I know in Oklahoma, they've seen them. There's one man that I know. He actually delivers to oil fields, delivers equipment and stuff like that that they need for the oil field in western Oklahoma. And he's actually seen quite a few of them. There's actually one ranch out there that he calls it the Dogman Ranch. I think he's seen like 6 or 8 of them out there on that place when delivering product. So whenever he's delivering at night, you can imagine how on edge he must be simply by the fact that he's seen multiple dogmen out there on that place. And he showed me some pictures of coyotes. It's pretty common for somebody to find a coyote that's been twisted, and most of the time that's been done by Bigfoot, because the coyote, for whatever reason, it acted in a stupid manner, and it got twisted, and it was unalived in that way. But I've also seen pictures from buried that where its insides have been pulled out through its mouth, and that was quite a shocker to see that. Something that
Wait,
could
the
run
dog man, not the coyote.
no, the coyote had
Okay.
its insides pulled out through its mouth. It wasn't torn in half. Its intestines and everything else were pulled out through its mouth. Something ran its arm down inside the coyote's mouth and throat and pulled its insides out.
Cat got your tongue, but literally, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when you see pictures of stuff like that are authentic, they're not. I know he didn't Photoshop them and just to try to pass along the story. I've known the guy for, I don't know, probably 6 years or more now, and he's always been honest with me. You see things like that, it's kind of like, yeah, man, that's something that's I don't want to mess with. I don't want to make mad for sure. Something could do that to a coyote. But the other thing about the dog man is the picture that I sent you. That looks like a wolf. And some of the other descriptions of the dog man are a little bit different. Some of them are built bulkier. They're really fast. One guy that I talked to from Oklahoma, he's around Tulsa area. The one that he saw, what he told me is it basically looked like had a dogman head, had a body very similar to a Bigfoot, and the tail on it was probably the size of a pie plate or stovepipe, something like that. It was just a big bushy tail, is what he saw. And he was looking at it through, I think through binoculars, or no, it was through a scope. He had that's what his thing is. He makes calls, and he's gone to a lot of coyote hunts and stuff like that. And he'd actually made a call to call up coyotes, and the dog man actually responded to the call and showed up. So, and he said the way it took off running, it ran on 2 feet. It took just a few steps. It went over a barbed wire fence, jumped over it on 2 feet. So the fastest thing he'd ever seen. So with this dog man, the reports don't all tell about the same thing, but the one thing they do have in common seems to be that big dog or wolf type head on them. On the picture that I sent you, it's to me the head almost looks too big for the body. The ears are laid down; they're not sticking up. Whereas with some of the other pictures that I've seen of them, the ears are sticking up and they're pointed. So I believe that must be something that's occurred naturally with them. And I don't know. Well, I mean, is this part of what the Anubis legend was that came out of Egypt, and some have survived and they've somehow made it to America? That would be the thing I'd love to have an answer for. But you've got these legends from Europe and America and a lot of places in the world. So,
Well, how much did your information on just Bigfoot research influence any of the ideas or thoughts you have on the dog man? I mean, you mentioned that if the Bigfoot was allowing this creature to be in its territory, then it probably didn't see it as a threat. which makes it a little bit different when you hear about a coyote getting its organs ripped out basically through its mouth. That's a different thing, which makes you think, is it a predator or is it just something that has instinctual aspects to it of reactionary when it feels threatened by danger?
Yeah, it really makes me speculate that could this be something that kind of serves as a outer guard if it's traveling with a troop of Bigfoot? Could this be like the sentinel that's going to kind of keep an eye on the Bigfoot? It really makes me wonder, if that could be the case. I can't prove it either way. I can't prove it or disprove it. But if they're running together, it seems that they have some kind of an agreement of some type, however they communicate, to allow them in there with them. But this is not the only case for us. I know when we talked to Vic, he had less than 10 stories where people had actually seen the Bigfoot and the Dogman seemingly getting along with them. Most of the time, they seem to be they kind of stick with their own kind. But I know in Montana, a friend of mine out there, he's got a picture of a what we certainly believe is a dog man, and it's with some Bigfoot as well. So, and as I said before, I really wish I had more information on that. Is this just something? Is the dog man an anomaly that just pops up in a Bigfoot troop because of the genetics, or is this something that they've taken in?
Well,
Uh,
do you believe any of the old myths are right when it comes to how things have been depicted in similar forms and manners in the past? I mean, we have ideas of werewolves. I think everyone talks about a man that changes into a beast, but what happens if there wasn't a change back? There was this permanent thing. And I think if you look through all old stories, Native American stories and things like that, there is something of this creature, whatever you want to call supernatural. There is something that it doesn't seem to fit any category that we have labeled so far for creatures. So where these cryptids come in, which to me, I always found the conversation interesting, but it also defies some of the pre-existing logic I've learned. Like I didn't think Bigfoot's rolled with other cryptids or had some type of relationship there. I think there can be a passive one, but not into a point where it would be tribe acceptance. But then again, I've heard stories of people who've seen Bigfoot and have talked about being invited into their group briefly to encounter a specific event that they might have experienced, which to me is like,
yeah,
I mean, it's new information.
yeah, that's and I've met some people who've told me very similar things. Uh, who've done that. As far as the origin, as far as the oral history that's been passed down through from generation to generation, I think that there has to be at least some truth in it somewhere. I don't I don't completely dismiss what's considered myth and legend because there has to be a little bit of truth in it somewhere in order for that to still exist today, in my view. With the dog man, was it something that was actually created? Uh, you get into more myth and legend, and it just turns into, I don't know, maybe a rabbit hole of sorts. But
When you saw your first sighting, you were on ground zero, but like was this with Will and you were also like, I mean, what did you do next? Like did you stay in the area to see if you would be able to scout out anything else that it could leave behind? Like when did you start looking at its tracks? And I'm not going to show the scat photo. But when were you coming across things that just didn't fit the check boxes for any other normalized animals in that area?
yeah, whenever we found the trackway, that was something that really piqued my curiosity. And at that time, I was thinking that most of them were probably dangerous, and it prompted me to instead of just going out there with unarmed, I started usually taking something with me.
Smart.
where I guess it would at least make me feel better about it, whether it would actually do me any good or
Hey,
not.
bring a gun. I'm all for it.
So yeah, I went ahead and I started doing that. The funny thing is, on the day that we actually took the picture of the dog man, uh, William, he actually has a 4570, and we had it with us that day. But for me, the actually getting to see the creature, we put the gun down so we could take pictures. Is where our mindset was. We weren't trying to collect a body or anything like that. Uh, to me, having some evidence, whether it's circumstantial or whatever someone may deem it to be, to me that was more important than taking shots at one. Because to me, taking shots at one, I'm probably going to make an enemy out of it if I go to shooting at it. But, yeah, that's a real curiosity to me.
Now,
But
have you, when you showed photos to other Bigfoot researchers and things, have you heard any stories or any confirmation from them that they've come across something similar, but just didn't know how to put it into a category?
yeah, and here's the thing that you get into with the cryptids is a lot of things fall into the dog man or Bigfoot category, and actually there's other things out there from this is information that I've been told from other researchers is you have some other things out there, kind of like a gugway, which it has a similar body build to a Bigfoot. The teeth are pretty nasty, look canine. And those things, the big, from my understanding, is the Bigfoot do not get along with them, and they've done stuff that a Bigfoot could get blamed for, even though the Bigfoot weren't guilty of it. I know this right here seems like we're wandering off into just make believe, but this is what people that I trust have told me. So it really makes you wonder where all these different species actually came from. If you got a Bigfoot, which is one thing, most of the time they're usually typically not aggressive. Just to be honest about it, whereas you have a gugway, which is something that is aggressive, and I believe one of the tribes in Minnesota, actually, that I can't remember their word for it in their native language, but I think it basically breaks down to the thing that hunts people. So, and then you have the dog man. So, and it seems to be something a little bit different as well.
When you,
But this right
when you,
here, this relationship that they might have with a dog man is not that surprising to me, because we've heard we've actually heard when we've been out in the field a pack of coyotes running. I don't know what they were chasing. I don't know if it could have been a deer or what, be it night. And in that pack and all that noise that the coyotes were making, we've actually heard whoops when all that was going on, something traveling with the coyotes. It kind of makes it look like maybe the coyotes were part of the hunting party, to gather up food. Now that's something that William could share with you as well, because we've heard that in real time, and I thought that was interesting as well.
do you believe, like, when you find something like this, do you try and look up in your area if there's been any types of, like, I mean, most of the time you hear things about like crazy, like slaughter stories or something like that, not with people, but with animals, like an animal's body that was in such a mangled way where you've never heard of an actual like coyote or wolf or anything, wouldn't do that type of thing. Like the chupacabra, for instance. You got two holes in the back of goats' necks that were just looked like their blood was sucked dry. So did you try and look up anything in your area if there was any types of weird animal mutilations to see if there was some type of evidence to be like maybe this is just something you caught a glimpse of something that it probably isn't classified under the species thing yet, but there has been some cases of either animal mutilations linked to it.
Yeah, in the 70s, there's a man that I know from the neighboring town who owned property in some bottomland that where our county that we live in meets up with another county. In the 70s, they had cattle mutilations, is what they were thinking at the time. And he told me at the time that most of the people thought it maybe this was some kind of a cult thing where they were going in and they were killing these cattle and I think they were taking maybe the heart and the lungs and the liver out of these cattle, and that's basically all that was disappearing from them. And since then, I've talked to enough people in this that they've talked about finding similar things with deer, where the deer was killed and it'd be the heart and the lungs and the liver. Those things specifically would be taken from the deer, and the deer would be left. With that, it most of the time that's attributed to a Bigfoot doing that for the nutrients that those parts would provide. Kind of like what is it? The whale will kill sharks for what is it? Just for the liver, I think. I
Killer
think that's
whales?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll come in and I think they'll come up from underneath and hit them, and they'll hit them hard enough they'll dislodge that. And it's just for that one part. They don't eat the rest of it. So I, to me, it wouldn't be that dissimilar, for a something on land that knows what they're actually in need of to do that. So with that, it's I've heard of cases of that in here in Arkansas where the deer have been laid up and their bodies facing east. Their head would be north, the tail would be south, and the legs, would be facing to the east, and they would have those things removed from them. Heard the story of that here in Arkansas and also from Alabama. I haven't heard from it from other states, but I wouldn't be surprised if other people run across something like that. And so with
Now,
it, I was
is that a red
Bigfoot.
flag for you, though, when it comes to cattle mutilations or just animal mutilations of a sort, that there might be something? I mean, how much do you chalk? I never picture Bigfoot being the type to do that. I always picture Bigfoot eating like trees, or not trees, but fruit, and more of like a herbivore style of life, because I've never really heard any threatening things about Bigfoot. I've heard some experiences with what they thought was a Bigfoot. Just maybe they might have got too close to a camp of them or something like that, and they became a little bit hostile. But most of the time, there's like people see glimpses of them or pictures of them or sightings of them, but there's never really an actual interaction. There's kind of more of like they stay distant, both of each other kind of respect their areas and go about their way. So the violence factor is new, but I mean, I don't know how you explain so many unexplained cattle mutilations. People usually say, "Oh, it's a practical joke." It's like, well, what 17-year-old kid is going out there and cutting the blood out of a goat and trying to freak somebody out? It doesn't make sense. It's not what you do when you're 17 years old. You're trying to get beer from somebody who's actually above age to buy you beer.
Yeah, yeah, you're not thinking about that type of stuff. I know I wasn't at 17. I was thinking I was focused on other things, So, yeah. But yeah, with that, it really makes you wonder. And for the most part, with the Bigfoot, if they're in need of something, I believe that they're really opportunistic with things. Uh, I'll go ahead and share it here. I had a deer, which I hunt, and I have the majority of my life. Had one ice chest, and I would just keep putting ice on it, draining the water off, keep putting new ice on it. And it was just a tough week. So I'd actually had it in there in the ice chest for about 5 or 6 days. And finally, on the day that I felt good enough to go ahead and process my deer, when I wheeled it in the house and put my gloves on and had everything ready to do what I needed to do, I reached in the ice chest and I didn't have a deer in my ice chest. It was gone. Yeah, that was a new one on me. Uh, you know how ice, when you do that, The ice will form a sheet. It will melt enough that it will form a sheet of ice on the top. Well, that sheet of ice had not been broken, but the deer underneath it was gone. And I was told by someone that I know and trust who tells me that they can communicate with the Bigfoot. And what I was told is that they did take it because they had a tough week. They weren't Things just didn't go good for them that week, so they took advantage of that opportunity since I had that ice chest on my carport. To me, if
How the hell did he do it is the thing. He's like David Copperfield. What do you mean? Like, I don't
yeah,
even know how to physically do that.
yeah, yeah, that was the really interesting part. And if it had been, say, somebody who lives in my area, wouldn't they have just taken the whole ice chest if they
Yeah.
knew there was a deer in it? And
Same
that,
thing with cattle mutilations and bears. You can say the example, it could have been a bear or an animal, but they usually drag it off and it
yeah,
leaves a trail. And also, if it's a bear, it stays in the area until all the meat and everything that they want out of it is gone. So you would see remnants of bones and things of that sort. But everything with these cattle mutilations or things where like you mentioned, you catch something and it's gone, they don't leave a trace. It's just like it vanished
right.
out of thin air.
Mhm. Yeah, and the interesting thing that was on a Friday, and I guess it would have been about 3 o'clock on that Friday morning, 3 a.m. on that Friday morning. My wife said the dogs just went crazy inside the house for some reason. So to me, that kind of played into it. And I told my daughter, my youngest daughter, she was still living at home with us at the time, and she's a faithful skeptic, which is a good thing to have somebody to question you on stuff because you don't want to just run too far off in a wrong direction. Just make assumptions and say, well, this is what happened. She insisted we get flashbacks. Let's look in the yard because she was thinking, it had to have been the dogs, but the ice chest wasn't turned over. The lid had been closed again on the ice chest, and we looked all over the yard. We couldn't find anything. We couldn't find the hams or the shoulders or anything else from the deer in the yard. We never did find them. So whatever took them, I mean, it took it completely out of the yard into the woods away from us where we never found it. Never found it. And I thought that was really interesting. My wife, she's a light sleeper. So whenever the dogs woke her up, if somebody had pulled up in the yard in a vehicle, I'm certain that she would have heard the vehicle drive off. So, and if you've had, I don't know how experienced you are with that, but if you've had something in an ice chest for a week with ice on it, it's so cold that it'll make your hands hurt in less than a minute trying to hold on to it, you know, because of the coldness. So that was a real mystery to me. So
Now, I'm gonna kind of tilt it back to more of the cryptid talk here, but when you look at the cryptid sightings or occurrences, do you try and have that skeptic view when you're really analyzing it, or has the whole things that you've actually seen kind of opened you up to the whole, I think there's probably something to most claims at least. I mean, I'm not really challenging you on this. I'm more just kind of trying to figure out because with the whole cryptid stuff, I live in a city, man. So it's like this is all really disconnected, but every cryptid you hear about or occurrence of Bigfoot or anything of that sort happens to do in a place that's usually west, giant open fields. And I mean, there's weight to the argument about it. It's just not in everybody's purview, and nobody's Googling animal mutilations. Nobody's Googling strange occurrences unless you're involved in some group that already studies or researches some types of cryptids and things of that sort. But there is a wonderment out there of is there something that's being hidden from us, whether they're doing it on their own or whether just the news and all the other places that should be doing reporting on any of these occurrences, just do a good headline story and then go away, go the separate direction.
right, yeah, and I wish that I could find newspaper articles about that, from the '70s, because I was completely unaware of it until just a few years ago when the guy told me about it. I had no idea that it had even taken place. And as far as the evidence goes, that's the goal that I try to have, is to not run ahead of the evidence. Let the evidence speak. You have to go about it slowly. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in things and just kind of run with something. And that's why it's good, to have somebody around you who's a skeptic and say, no, 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 wait a minute. Look at this from a different way. You may not be right on this. And sometimes that's not you really want to hear, especially when you're excited about something that's taken place. But people who are faithful enough to do that, that's really good to have.
Well,
Uh,
besides like hucksters in the Bigfoot community that are just trying to sell a book or something, the Bigfoot community and any other cryptid community is very good at policing themselves, especially when it comes to just people that are in there to troll or do anything of that sort. Which, I mean, I was talking to a guy, an academic, a business ethics academic, who wrote an article about the selling of psychic services. And he doesn't believe in psychic stuff at all. He was completely like, there's no scientific evidence. I don't think people should be selling it. But one thing he mentioned to me that I thought was pretty important was that he was very surprised at how many people have these beliefs that are patrolling themselves when it comes to actual evidence, like post real research, a real occurrence, a real story. We're not here for the trolls. We don't want to sit someone and have just someone out all the way out in left field talking about JFK is connected to aliens or something like that. Let's stick to the factual basis of the discussion here. And I mean, do you find that a lot with you try and do with maybe some of the other work that's out there, but also do you try and find, I guess, that the community is more good at policing themselves when it comes to certain posts and certain aspects of like, there's been no record of that before. I'll look into it, but that just seems like this person might just be trolling.
yeah, that's the thing you always want to move cautiously with. If somebody's constantly putting stuff out, throwing it out there on social media, and making a lot of bold claims. That's for me, that's as Shane talked about the other day. It's when you go to a conference, you get to meet people. They'll show you stuff that they'll never show to the public. And to me, that's a bit of a confidence builder. That other people are actually running across the exact same stuff that you're running across. It's just like the guys that I met from Ohio. They were able to confirm some of the things that I thought I was right about, simply because they've spent the time in the field, and they were saying, yeah, that's the exact same thing we find in Ohio or Kentucky or other states that they would go to. So whenever you have things like that, people who've not met each other, and I'm able to confirm what I find here in Arkansas with somebody who's more traveled than I am, and they found the exact same thing in other states. It's kind of, yeah, you've got something that's real and legitimate, and to me that's really good to have somebody like that you can bounce your ideals off of, and maybe they can confirm it or say, nope, nope, we don't find that, and it'll help redirect you, maybe in the right way. It's that's the other thing. Yeah, there are definitely hoaxers out there, and if you follow the hoaxers, then yeah, it could lead you down the wrong path, and you could end up embarrassing yourself with some stuff. But to me, that's why I like to meet people in person. I like to look them in the eye whenever they're telling me something, and those are the ones that I really put faith in. Is they're being honest about what they found.
Well, when you're looking at somebody's experience, I mean, when does it sink for you that this person is generally actually interested and actually experienced something? There's a lot of people that I'll end up talking to that I'll say like an experience, and I'm like, when you can't remember certain details of things that I find that would be like probably the most pertinent things in your mind. It's different when you're experiencing something for the first time in front of you. Then your brain doesn't really have a way to try and put things into categories. But I see a lot of like the book sales and stuff, and it's hard because then it's like the same thing with selling psychic services. There's a lot of people out there that are like, hey, yeah, I'll give you this if you buy my book. I was like, yeah, most people would just give you the information and then they end up wanting to buy your book after you give it to them.
Yeah. And that's the thing about the people that you meet and you actually get to know them a little bit. They'll share information with you that they're probably not going to share publicly. Just like with if they have photographic evidence or things like that.
Which I have your photo. I cannot explain what that is. I could say it's a giant wolf, but I've never seen a wolf that big that's doing that
Yeah,
motion like that.
yeah. To me that was I was glad that we were able to actually capture something, of that. And that's the thing. I mean, it's and if anybody's interested in this, I mean, if you can find an area, maybe there's a report in the area, just start going to the same spot over and over again. The more time you spend in the area, the more familiar they'll be with you. If you have cryptids in the area, they do seem to keep their distance. So it's even with the dogman, they're not. I'll say that for the ones around here so far, they're not just overly aggressive. They tend to be watchers more than anything else. They seem to like to observe us for some reason. It's I think what I've heard people say, is we're their entertainment. A lot of times, it's most time you won't even have an idea that they're in the area, and they're simply observing you. So, and I'm convinced that that is the case. What you talked about before, somebody gets too close to an area where maybe they're at. Most of the time with the Bigfoot, they'll usually throw rocks or they'll snap limbs or they'll do something that may seem aggressive, but basically what they're trying to do is just to get you out of that area, whether you're getting too close to their little ones or maybe there's something else in the area that is dangerous. Is that's kind of a theory that a lot of people run to. Or if you sneak into an area and you're waiting on them to show up and they realize that you're there, you can get the same thing because they're not real happy about it that you figured something out. Which is I've had people that I trust tell me that as well. So
How long did it take for you to start being able to speak about some of the occurrences and experience that you've had? Like, do you think it's still controversial areas to be able to talk about this stuff, or is it a lot more open now because of the advent maybe of the internet?
um, to be perfectly honest, I mean I don't I'm not out there publicly, especially in the area that I live in. If people find out what my hobby is, I'll go ahead and
Shit, you've
talk
been
to
on
them
my
about it.
show 3 times.
Yeah, yeah. But people will find out about it. It's on the day of the eclipse, April the 8th. Well, that weekend, actually a couple of days before. William Lunsford, which you've had on your show, and then Keith Crabtree, he played the monster in the Legend of Boggy Creek. He's a friend of mine. They came to our town and they did a little presentation, and we had some people that I mean they're basically neighbors, people I've known for a long time. They showed up and they shared their stories. So that was really interesting. So I kind of like to for this for me, I'm really comfortable with things happening slowly as far as me meeting people around here, that find out what I do, and then they're comfortable enough to go ahead and come forward and tell me what they've seen. So with that, it's we've collected a few more sighting reports because of that.
Have you
But
tried to put any of these sightings in a database just to be like, hey, the population of my town and people that live near me have also experienced something that might be similar and just create a log about it? Because I feel like the more experiences and stories we can get out there of actual encounters or things that people can't really explain or sightings, it just opens up the book a little bit further to be like something else is going on here.
yeah, that's I've never put anything out there publicly. Uh, but I know that between William and I, with a lot of the sighting reports that we've collected, where people will just come up to us and, uh, let's say talk face to face with us about it, we could add quite a few sightings to some lists that already exist. Kind of like the BFRO and things like that. Um, but yeah, there's it happens a lot more often than what people would think because the majority of the sightings people never go public with them. They're not going to take the time to hunt up a database to fill out a report and talk about it. So to me, that's what's really important is when people trust you enough to go ahead and share their story that they're not willing to go public with. I tend to believe those wholeheartedly. You know,
When I would like to ask more about Ground Zero, are all these sightings coming from that one specific area, or is there just kind of all over? I'm not talking about ones that are out of state. I'm talking about specifically ones that you've experienced and then specifically ones that you've heard stories about from people that live nearby you. Is that still all around the area of Ground Zero? Maybe you can explain a little bit about what Ground Zero is.
yeah, Ground Zeroes is just actually public. It's public land uh, where people have access to it. It's a WMA, Wildlife Management Area. And from the time that we first started going in there, we had those in was it 2018? So we're from 2018 to now, I've been able to confirm more things about what I was believing, what their travel route is, what they consider their area is, at least for the young ones and the moms, that would be in the troop, with the sightings that have taken place. Because they've kind of filled in some gaps for me. People who've heard vocals, people who had sightings coming off of river. In the last, it's just been in the past year that we've found out about two other sightings from the east side of what I believe their territory is. People in town who've had sightings, people who've heard other things in different areas miles away. It all plays together. What I wish I was able to figure out, is the troop from Ground Zero, is that the same ones that run along the Southern River to the west of me? But those honestly, the behavior seems to be a little bit different with those that are to the west of us than what they are just to the east of me. I mean, they're not that far apart, less than 10 miles.
You say
So
the behavior is different. What do you mean by behavior? Like more threatening, more docile?
more standoffish. In the Ground Zero area, we've that's where the majority of our sightings have been. But now to the west of us, that goes to a different public land. There have been a few sightings there, but when you go farther south, they I don't know, they just seem to be. I can't quite put my finger on it, but they seem to have a different a different attitude. Excuse me, a different attitude, a different behavior about them. If that makes sense. Uh, they'll do more tree knocks. You can get tree knocks during the day while it's still daylight. But as far as them coming up to the edge of the woods, that's they seem to be a little bit different with that. So I don't know if that would be different, maybe a subspecies, which is something that I kind of tend to think is
Or
probably
just
the
a
case.
variation in the species?
Yeah, just a variation of them. Uh, maybe this other area is because there've been so many people in that area with guns through the past decade, that they've heard a lot of gunshots, and maybe that's made them change their behavior some. But there is one story. William and I, we were talking about this just yesterday. We were in that other area that we call the dark woods, and we'd probably been there. We'd stopped on the bridge in that area, and William was doing calls on the passenger side of the truck, and I was on the driver's side. And we'd probably been there for 35, 40 minutes. And when William, he had a spotlight with him, and I didn't have a light. But whenever he walked around the back of the truck, and his light kind of just, how when you're walking, the light will just kind of move everywhere. Something took off running out of the water. So that was a new one on me. But I know other people I know another guy who's actually has a recording of one running through the water, and it sounded very similar to that, what his recording was. So I don't know. It kind of made me wonder if that thing was sneaking up on me or what it was doing. But that right there was a little bit different behavior. But they so far they haven't been aggressive. down there in that area either, even though at least in my mind, they seem to be a little bit different, a little bit different behavior. Uh, but that to me, that's interesting how you can have what I believe are two different troops within 15 miles of each other, at least, no farther than that. And one group can seems to be a little more open and friendly, trusting of us, and the other one still seems to be more standoffish.
Do you believe that any of the missing person cases, there's like a large database out there, depending on which state, kind of has their own, but there's a lot of missing person cases that go on where there's no remnants of even fabrics or anything like that that are being found of a person. And it's like, some of these woods are big, but they're not super huge to where a search party that has done investigations and has looked for days upon days, even weeks, for a missing person with no water really nearby that they would be able to drown and not find the body. It's not like going missing in the ocean. But do you believe any of these missing person cases could be linked to some type of cryptid or some type of thing that could happen there? I mean, it's accidental. We're not saying that the creatures are aggressive 100%, but if you look at a territorial aspect of things and you are wandering into areas that might be seen as their territory, you don't find anything. They just go missing.
Mhm. In the Oklahoma is only about less than 25 miles from where I live. And there are open cases of missing people in McCurtain County. And there's some of the reports that come out of there where people have really had some really aggressive encounters there. Now, is that going to be the Bigfoot, or is that going to be a different type of cryptid that's done that, or could it be just people because they've been involved in something they shouldn't have been involved with some bad people. That's the thing that kind of gets me. But that tends to happen more over there than here. So that once again, it really makes you wonder. There's a lot of missing 411 stuff that goes on, and it
A lot, like not even just a couple cases. There's like a significant amount, and most of them happen to deal with like the Midwest to Western areas, surprisingly. And these are where I'm starting to realize where a lot of Bigfoot experiences are, and a lot of people encountering things that seem unexplainable.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the really curious part about it. I mean, I've tried to look for missing people here in the county that I live in, and I just haven't come up with anything. So, but the neighboring county in the next state, yeah, you've got missing people, and I know that the boundary with Arkansas, Oklahoma, the western boundary for Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma, that's there. There's a lot of activity in that area. Uh, so could it be what it is, or could it be a different cryptid altogether that's actually in the area that nobody's really got to lay eyes on? That's the thing that kind of piques my curiosity. So, but I know in Oklahoma City, I don't remember how many years ago it was. It was a new subdivision being built, and somebody had gone in there. I don't know if they were looking for cryptids in that area or what the reason was, but they found a trackway with calls on it. Looked, I don't know. I'm not sure what the thing would be, but it was a big track left in the snow, and it you could tell it had claws on its feet. So could it be something else like that we just don't even know about? And I know a lot of this, right, our conversation today, a lot of it's been kind of speculation, but to me, I think we need to take all this into account in case, just kind of put it in your mind somewhere, and whenever maybe you'll find maybe somebody will present something else at a future date that will go along with it. Is how I approach a lot of this stuff. You know,
Do you find it difficult to do new research on the subject because sometimes it's a hit or miss with a lot of these hunts that you can go on or just trips that you go out on?
yeah, it's you're not in control of it. I'll just say that up front. Unless you've really done a lot of research and you've got audio recorders out where maybe you can hear whenever they're passing through an area and you can kind of figure out their pattern, you're not going to be in control of it. And even if you do all that work and you can get ahead of them, it still doesn't mean you're going to get to see anything, because it's really their business to make sure that they're aware of whatever's in their area. Have humans come in. So, and that's the other part that makes it so difficult, is if you're looking for something that spends its whole life avoiding humans, or maybe observing them from a distance. That's the part that makes it even more difficult to come up with more hard proof. So,
Do you find a lot of people who are resistant to the subject is just because we're all about trying to put something in a box, and with some of this stuff, there's just been a neglect. Like, where's the government? Why aren't they investigating any of those? You know how many people go missing, like I'm mentioning? Government should be on that a little bit more than what they've said. Oh, the police searched for 2 days. That's enough time, right? It's like, yeah, tell that to
yeah,
the parent who's missing a child.
yeah, it seems that more could be done, and to me that leads to more speculation as to why they don't invest more in it to try to prove or disprove it, or figure out what exactly is going on. And who knows? Maybe it's something that they're no better off than the just your common researcher like me. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're simply not. Maybe they can't get any farther than we can.
I think they know way more than what they're leading on. To be honest with you, I've heard too much about like kill squads of Bigfoot and all that type of stuff where I start kind of questioning. I'm like, I don't know why the news isn't even picking up one of these stories, because I've heard some experiences and some things where I'm like Shane's casts, and nobody really going to make a giant article about that or make a news story about that and publicize it on like CNN or Fox or anything like that. They go into conspiracy stuff all the time. And it's not even conspiracy stuff. I mean, they're talking about LGBTQ up there and, trans swimmers and all that. I'm like, come on, one Bigfoot. That's it. That's it. Just show me one big footprint. Highlight one researcher.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that one of the big papers from Dallas, would have at least covered it. Since Shane is from that area, or maybe Brian, up around Oklahoma City, you would think that they would have at least covered that and put it in ran a small article or something, and saying, "Hey, this was found here." But I don't know why
And
they
I
don't know.
I know people have different opinions on Skinwalker stuff, but that show became pretty popular. I thought it would at least took the taboo off the subject a little bit, to the point where we would have gotten probably more articles about other things as well too.
Yeah, and to me, in today's times, that would be a wonderful distraction to have something like that run across the country.
I know, right? Holy shit, the amount of political stuff everybody's so focused into now. Unless Trump unveils his mask as being Bigfoot, we're not getting shit.
Yeah, yeah, but to me that would be wonderful, if they'd run a story like that and say, "Hey, they found 20-inch footprints in Oklahoma." you know, let's unwind from all the tension that's been built up.
I feel like it would be a good escape, to be honest with you.
Yes, I do too. So, but
But
yeah,
it, it's
to,
it,
mhm.
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I was saying it's to me it's exciting to think that somebody from the Creation Museum in Glen Rose, Texas would take interest in their track and possibly help them do some investigation. So,
All I'm saying is whatever they investigate and whatever they research, make sure you get copies of the actual thing before you go and give it to the museum. I do not trust the museums.
yeah.
For some reason, I've heard too many experiences of people either giving something to the Smithsonian or something, and then next thing you know, it's just
Mhm.
gone. Oh, we lost it. What do you mean you lost
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Bones of giants or runes being carved in the rock, stuff like that. I mean, simple stuff, and it just goes missing. So,
God, to have the key to their warehouse or shed where it keeps all their, like, it's like Indiana Jones when he's digging through that giant warehouse that the Nazis owned, and there's just like
Yeah,
crystal skulls and stuff like that. It's like, why aren't you guys publicizing any of this? Oh, well, we have Pinocchio's original skeleton out there in the museum floor. It's like, what do I care about that?
yeah, yeah. That would to me that would be great. So it's all sorts of stuff. For some reason it seems to have been buried, and I don't quite understand why. It's that's something with Cecil. He's really got me between him and Tully. They've got me really thinking about what is the history of America. Is it even remotely close to what we've been told?
Well, I can tell you from JFK and RFK research, it's dark. It's very
Yeah,
dark.
yeah. So
Well,
that's
Stephen, I appreciate the time you gave me. I know you got to get going here soon, but I really do appreciate the time, all the chats that we've had, the one we did with Shane, and your previous episode as well too. I'll try and get a giant Bigfoot panel together at some point, to be able to discuss some more. But I want to do a little bit more research and talking with other experiencers and people that have seen sightings, just so I can build up a better information base. When it comes to being able to ask more informed questions. But I do appreciate the time you gave me to talk on my show. Thank you for doing your show with Cecil. I love watching it when it goes out.
oh
Weird
yeah,
Realities. But where can people find your links and where any other links you'd like to promote, please?
yeah. It's I do have a Facebook page. Somebody can reach out to me there, message me or whatever. I do have a YouTube channel with my name. It's hard to find. I've never really tried to promote it much. But I do have some things on there that are interesting to me. And most time on Friday nights, I can usually be found with the Weird Crew, Weird Realities. So, and I may hop in with Wearing the Folk some on Friday nights going forward. So,
I got to get Tully on here at some point just so I can complete the crew and complete the set. But Stephen, it's been a pleasure chatting with you again. I'm gonna make sure I link all your links in the description. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.